it doesn't matter what you do or how well you do it if nobody knows that you're there. Quick question. What terrifies you more? Posting about your services and getting 0 responses, or posting about your services and getting too many? Now, if you just felt your stomach drop thinking about both of those scenarios, well, you're in the right place, because that double fear is exactly what's keeping you underpaid and invisible. And today, we're going to dismantle it completely. My name's Joel, and this is the Fundamental Podcast. Let's get into it. So I was having this conversation with my fiance, and we were talking about what it is. She's a psychologist by trade, and we're having this conversation around why it is that we're so hesitant to put ourselves out there, to make a post on LinkedIn, for example, advertising our services. And we're talking about this idea, it's like being on the playground. If you imagine going back to your days in school and being on the school playground and putting your arms out and shouting, hey, pick me, throw me the ball. This idea that we're advertising that we're open for business or we're open to receive the ball. And two things can happen in that moment. We put ourselves out there, we say we're open, and then nobody passes us the ball. And not only does nobody pass us the ball, but everybody can see that we want to play, and yet nobody wants to play with us. And I think that a lot of our fear around marketing ourselves, putting ourselves out there, advertising what we do, is not so much a fear of not receiving a positive feedback from that, not receiving clients, but rather people seeing us not receive clients. There's this fear that, I'm advertising myself, and then if nobody responds, then people are going to be watching and seeing that, and they're going to be judging us based on that. And I think that's quite a primal fear, and something that we've experienced in our childhood. Now, as solopreneurs or founders, we're bringing that same fear into our day-to-day lives, and it's keeping us stuck in the situation that we're in. Now, the other idea is, well, what happens if I put myself out there? Maybe I create a post marketing myself, and there's too many people wanting to work with me. Again, this idea of being on a school playground, and we say we're open, throw me the ball. And then 3 or 4 people turn around, look at us, and they all throw us their ball. And all of a sudden we've got too many balls heading our direction, and we fumble and drop them all, and we look foolish. And again, it's not so much that we drop the ball, but we are seen by many to have dropped the ball. And I think that that's a fear for many as well, which is, what happens if I put myself out there and then all of a sudden I get so much business that I can't handle it? And so it's this dichotomy where we're afraid of not getting any business, but we're also afraid of getting too much. And it's keeping a lot of us from really putting ourselves out there. I think also part of it is this idea that if we were successful, and this maybe is the way that you think about it, is that if I were successful, then I would not need to advertise my services. And therefore, by putting myself out there, by marketing myself, and people seeing me market myself, I'm showing the world that I'm not yet successful. And I think this is something that many of us struggle with from time to time, is this belief that people that are successful don't have to market themselves. And it's only those people that are, desperate to work with others that have to put themselves out there. And I guess this also, when we talk about the playground analogy again, is this idea that, well, the popular kids never had to ask for people to play with them, right? The popular kids always had somebody passing them the ball, and they didn't need to ask for it. And I think some of that belief and that experience carries on into how we run our businesses. But of course, that's not true. What is actually the case is the people that are successful, they're not the ones that are popular for popular's sake. And they're not even necessarily the best at what they do. They're simply the ones willing to put themselves out there. They are the ones who market themselves when they're busy, and they market themselves when they're not busy, and because they understand that it doesn't matter what you do or how well you do it if nobody knows that you're there. So I encourage you, if you're one of these people, I've struggled with this myself, and I know my fiance has struggled with this as well. If you believe that you shouldn't be marketing yourself, or you believe that marketing yourself is a sign of you not being as successful as somebody else, is just to question where that belief and that fear is coming from, and start to ask yourself whether it's really a valid fear, and start to find reasons for why it's not true. I think this is a really important skill for anybody to learn, is to question the way that we think. Because so often we'll start thinking something and we don't take time to question it, especially if it has to do with fear. Some visceral or emotional reaction will come up. And instead of asking ourselves and questioning, well, is this true? Or is this reaction serving me? We tend to feel that way and take it as self-evident, as true, as fact, and then act on that fear. And of course, when we act out of fear, we reduce the impact that we have on the world. We shrink, we hide away from our purpose and from our mission. And so in order to be able to do well in life, whatever that means to you, success in whatever definition you have, we have to be able to act from our higher self and not from our base instincts, not from fear. I think it's useful to remind ourselves that we're not those small, fearful, weak children that perhaps we once were, but rather we're fully formed human beings, and we're on the path to becoming everything that we can be. And these fears around putting ourselves out there, raising our head above the pulpit, those fears are not helping us, they're hindering us. And if we can recognize, firstly, I think the solution comes from awareness. When we become aware that these fears are a reflection not of reality, but of past emotional programming. Well, once we're aware of them, then we can make a conscious decision how we respond to that emotional stimulus. So the first step is to question, to pay attention to how you're thinking about what you're doing. And when you notice those fears and doubts coming up, to just remind yourself, no, this is not true. I have all of these reasons for why it's important to market myself, for the fact that anybody, no matter how successful they are, is marketing themselves. And in fact, to become successful, to become well-known in my niche and in my field, I have to market myself. It is part of the process. Nobody gets to escape or to skip that part. I think that's a really powerful way to start taking control of your emotional programming and to start rewiring it. Instead of reacting to how you feel in a cause and effect way, we're able to create that pause between feeling something, thinking about how we want to respond, and then responding from our higher self, from a place that where we keep our goals in mind and we're able to act in a way that is in line with those goals. So anyway, that's the episode for today. Let me know in the comments if there's been a situation in your life where perhaps you have felt that way, you felt that hesitation to put yourself out there, and then you've done it anyway. And what came out of that situation? It's sometimes useful to remind ourselves of the times we've already overcome that fear of putting ourselves out there, and just how amazing our life can turn out to be when we take that step and we take the risk, and to remind ourselves of the challenges we've already overcome. So let me know in the comments what challenge you've overcome in the past, or a time where you were hesitant and have taken the step anyway. And if you like episodes like these, then please hit subscribe, follow the podcast, and share this episode with somebody who you think might benefit from it. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.